So, as you can see behind me, we have done a lot of digging since the last time we talked. I think I've maybe dug out a third of what I wanted to dig, and I think so far I've spent about 9 hours at it, so it's going to take a while. But there's a pretty big section now that we can start working with, and that's the important thing. I think the plan for today is going to be to set up that skeleton farm, which is easier said than done, because I realized in order to set up a proper skeleton farm, we are going to need a water elevator. To do a water elevator, you need soul sand, and soul sand means I have to go to the Nether. I didn't really want to go to the Nether. I'm not going to lie. I'm still scared of the Nether, but we're going to have to go to the Nether to get the soul sand to make the Skelly farm to give us the experience that we are going to need to have the kind of gear we need to go to the Nether. I'm not particularly thrilled that we're going to have to do things this way, but it is what it is, right? And just in case Etho ever, for whatever bizarre reason, watches this video, yes, I'm using obsidian for the corners. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Before we go to the Nether, there is something else that needs to happen, which is I need golden shoes. Now, the reason for wearing golden shoes is when you go to the Nether, there's a few different types of creatures. There's the zombified piglins, which are actually completely harmless as long as you never hit them or anything. And there are hoglins, which are, giant hogs that try to murder you. There's endermen in some places that will mostly ignore you unless you look at them, in which case they try to murder you. And there's non-zombified piglins. So the regular piglins are super chill unless you open a chest, dig up some gold, or are failing to wear gold, because they are all about the gold. Zombified piglins don't really care about lava. They just kind of hang out there. Believe it or not, I'm getting better about going to the Nether. I still hate it, and this trip I'm rushing to gather some resources and get back out as quickly as possible, but still, I'm less scared of it than I used to be. Won't be vacationing here anytime soon, though. So one thing that's almost always a good idea is to put some sort of gate or something in front of the Nether portal, because those zombified piglins will just sort of randomly wander through. And as much as they're not hostile, it's still a little sketchy to have them wandering around. Oops. Yeah, the first attempt at the Skelly spawner did not go as planned. This is why I don't do hardcore. The second attempt nearly went the same way, but I survived. And then it was time to start digging out the space. With deep slate, which is not the same thing as cobbled deep slate, but just deep slate, it has a slightly different texture depending on which way you place it. So cobbled deep slate will always be the same no matter whether you place it on the side, on the bottom, on the top, or whatever. But deep slate is directional. It's sort of like logs. If you place logs down, you kind of expect there to be a direction to it. Deep slate works the same way. So the surface that is normally the top, like on the floor here, is just a bit lighter than the texture that you get on the sides. In addition to using that texture variation to help give a little bit of extra detail to the ceiling, I also used it around these lights. I placed them, instead of placing them on the top or bottom of another block, I placed these deep slate blocks against the side facing out this way. So there was a block in behind each of these when I placed it. When I've got the lights on, it's going to look just a little bit more glowy around those lights. I haven't worked out yet where to build the killing chamber, and of course I don't want to spend a bunch of time digging through walls and stuff to try to figure it out. Of course, dwarves have invented some very clever ways to plan this sort of thing, but I have access to a method the average dwarf doesn't. I can make a copy of the world and jump into creative and jump through walls and stuff. Let's head over there now and see where we end up. I've been playing with a few ideas. The tinted glass wall that I've got here is what I'm eventually going for. I'm going to want to punch this wall out, replace it with the tinted glass, and then as the farm is running, you can just look in and watch the skeletons spawn, which will happen as soon as we turn that light off. But just the one light being on is enough to stop it. The plan is the skeletons are going to get pushed along there. They'll be lifted up by a water column, pushed over to the side, drop down here, and we'll stand here with a sword and hack at their ankles. Now, the reason that we're putting it here is because we are much closer than I originally thought to the keep entrance. I thought this was over kind of that way, another, I don't know, 10 or so blocks. But it's not. It's right there. So if I went with my original plan, which was to raise the skeletons up and push them over that way and then drop them down and have a killing chamber there, it would mean that we'd have the killing chamber for a mob farm as part of our entrance to our dwarven keep, which does not make a lot of sense. So instead, we're going to go this route. The functional parts of the farm are fairly straightforward. It's mostly just two tall shafts, one that brings the skeletons up and one that you drop them down. So it didn't take very long to get that built. Spawner farms like this are not the fastest things ever, but I just let it run while I was decorating the area, and it did the job. ended up spending a whole extra day just building, but to explain why, we need to start up here. This place? It's functional. It's got that entrance, which I still think is pretty grand, but mostly it's just a place to exist. Functional, sure, but not inspiring. But if we take this temporary tunnel to the new storage area, we go from purely functional to this. This is functional too, but it's also something that inspires us dwarves. That's really important in Minecraft. If you're going to spend any significant time in your world, it's really important to give yourself spaces you love. Storage areas in particular are where we spend a lot of time, so give it some extra attention and make sure you make it somewhere you love to be. For me, that means lighting. I'm building a dwarven keep over 100 meters below ground in dark stone, but we dwarves love the light, and so we build things that let us have that light. In this little section here, we only see a single lantern, but in reality, there are another 14 hidden light sources in this section alone, from here through here, to keep everything feeling bright and inviting. I'm not going to claim to be the greatest builder ever, but I really do love what we've ended up with in this area, and I'm itching to go build more. That's why I spent the extra day building. Before we wrap up for the day, I'd love to know what you folks think should be next on the list. Our dwarves still need a better place to live, but we could also really use an iron farm, and our little starter farm we built in the first episode is struggling to keep up. So maybe it's time to give the farmers the fields they've been asking for? We've had a few more dwarves join us, and some of them are learning to be masons. So maybe we should see if we can get the mason hall set up right away to give us access to more materials before we go farther. What other ideas can you think of? And if there's anything in particular you'd like to see or anything you'd like explained, we'd love to hear about it. Thanks for joining us again today. As always, have a great day and take care of yourself. Bye.